Hey, and welcome back to Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical. We are your hosts, Christy Palermo and Jennifer Hobson, and we are talking today about routine and flexibility. So as we are heading into a new season with summer, everybody has things changing around. And so I think routine and flexibility are two great things to talk about right now. And so, Jen, my question for you is how would you say you establish a new routine with, say, a change of season, whether it be season or season of life, or even just when something, you can think of it with something unexpected coming up. Like how much do you stick to routine and how much do you have that flexibility to shift things around?
So I think with anything that you do, routine has to be kind of at the base of it, right? It kind of needs to be the foundation of which you build things off of. So I think what's great, and of course that you mentioned it, it is going to be summer. Yes, maybe where you are, you're going into winter. You're on the opposite side of the world. That's cool. But where we are, we're going into summer. And for those of us that are parents, and also do other things like be an entrepreneur, or you have your hobbies, or you have your art, or whatever it is that you do. Now you are juggling having kids either full-time at home, or now they're in camp, or all of the camps and all of the activities. So everything is changing, and it changes so quickly. I think that's the other thing. Sometimes when I'm looking at when I have to adapt my routine, I think, oh my God, I have so much time. Like I have weeks and weeks to figure this out. And then all of a sudden I blink my eyes and tomorrow's the last day of school, which for us, we have actually 11 days. I got a message from the teacher today, not to give me any extra stress or anything, but it's like, oh, hello, you had 11 days until your routine has to change. And I think that's the first part of it, of saying, okay, I do need to make a new routine, is identifying things are going to change enough that the routine that I had has to change to be successful. And that's with anything you're doing. So if you started listening to us at the beginning of this year and you identified your three core focuses for the year, and you've had a successful routine, but shit's about to change, you have to embrace it. Even though what worked for the last 6 months worked, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work now. And that's okay. But I think for me, I have to also take the time, and I avoid it, right? I am a big avoider or procrastinator because I have to go back to the stories I've created about myself, that I have to create the perfect routine. So rather than taking the time and sitting at my desk and creating the perfect routine, I procrastinate and avoid it. And then I don't have 11 days until school is over. I have today is the last day of school. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. So for me, it's important to embrace the fact that routine cannot stay the same probably for 365 days out of the year. It just can't. And I also know it's going to change for summer, and then I'm going to blink my eyes, and in what is it? It's like 11 weeks I have off. It'll change again. So routine is actually partly change. Embrace that, accept it, but then go into your detailed day. So I was actually working with one of my coaching clients the other day, and I had to say, look at your calendar. That's the first part for me. Pull an old school paper calendar out, or if you're not an old school person, pull at least your digital calendar out and look at everything you actually are saying you're going to do. And even if it's for the next 7 days to establish that healthy routine, or for the next month, I think sometimes we say yes to so many things that we're just looking at it day by day, and we're not taking that kind of high level view. I'm holding my hand up in the air, that high level, that plain view down onto our world, going, holy shit, I said yes to 7 events, 2 volunteers, 3 extracurriculars, and I'm going to run a business. What? And if you want to go for the gold and that's where you're happy because you're busy and you're excited, fine. But just be aware of what are you actually saying yes to, because then you got to dial it back even more. All right, you looked at the high picture. Now look at the day. And yes, I even break it down by hour, because I have 2 tiny humans. And for me, they're in two very different stages of life. So I have shared before, I have one that's about to be 8, and then I have one that's a year and a half. I will tell you, their schedule is very, very different. And I know I'm going to give Christy time because she's going through the same thing. So I have to go, all right, what's wake up look like? What is the beginning of the day? Because I'll also tell you how you start your day is going to set the tone. So how am I starting the day? Am I also including creativity time, not just for the kids, but for myself? You got to include that creativity time. And for me, and when it comes to business, I have to schedule the work time. When is the work time going to happen? I think a lot of times we go into our days with really, really good intentions. We always go with good intentions, and we're going to work out, and we're going to follow my nutrition plan, and I'm going to read a book, and I'm going to have one-on-one time with my kids, and I'm going to say something nice to my spouse, and I'm going to get to bed early, and I'm going to clean the house. Like, I'm already on 7 things and I feel exhausted, right? So what I try to do is I look at that high level picture, then I break it down by day. And then I also look, what did I say were the 3 most important things to me? And in 2023, it's family, fitness, and finances. So if those things are not aligned with my routine, something is missing. And I think that, again, always a long-winded answer to your first question, but that's how I start. And it might be different for everyone, but that's where I suggest that you start. First, write down everything you're actually supposed to do for the next 30 days. Do you even know what you said yes to? Or did you forget grandma's birthday? Like, there's a lot of things we forget until it's the day before. And we're like, oh, I said I was going to buy Christy a birthday card 2 weeks ago, and then today is her birthday. And I did not send it. So those are the real life things that happen today, which, by the way, happy birthday, Christy.
Thank you.
And that is, you have to establish some kind of routine, because if you're trying to accomplish anything and or decrease your stress, you can't just be walking in the dark hoping to get to the next destination. It's just harder to get there, and you're creating your own obstacles.
Oh, I think you touched on so many great points there, because it really is about having that routine plus the flexibility. I mean, that's exactly what this episode is about. But you kept coming back to it where you didn't actually say the word, but priorities. It's really about your priorities. And I think that is key, because you touched on the big picture of what's our priorities for it. You named your 3 top ones for the year. Mm-hmm. And then it's breaking it down to, okay, what are my priorities this month? Taking a calendar look. I like the paper calendars too, the ones where it shows me the full month in front of me. So I can, as the month starts, like right now, yesterday and today, looking at what are the birthday parties coming up, what are the events I said yes to, where are the last days of school, whereas those big changes, so I can get an overview of the month. And I think that's a great way to look at things. And then, like you said, breaking it down by day, those are such great tips to keep in mind as a schedule is changing. Because, right, like going into a new season, a lot of us who are, our parents, the change of school is huge. My kids are young, and we just had a baby a month ago, so things are absolute chaos in our house. But also, we decided to keep the older 2 home from school this summer, which is going to be a huge shift. They just finished last week. And so we have gone into a new season of having now 3 kids at home, which having 3 kids is new to us. So we've literally been in survival mode this past month with a newborn. So that's where the flexibility has had to come in, because obviously we all know with a newborn, it is changed for the whole family. So everything is different. So we have had to be very flexible this month, and we've been going with the flow, but I feel a sense of chaos with not having the structure that I normally do in my days. So having to let go of that for a moment in time where there's that type of flexibility too, where you really have to release and be okay with the unexpected, as we mentioned in the very beginning. So when the unexpected happens, really having to let go of that structure for a moment, but then it's still coming back to what are the things I want to get done each day. And sometimes it's literally like, okay, today we are surviving. We are all gonna we are all gonna stay alive. We're all gonna eat and we're all going to get some rest. So maybe that is a priority for a day with, or a lot of days with a newborn. But now that we're coming out of our first month, now is when we need routine. So now it's not going to look as it did a month ago before the baby, and now all three kids are home. We don't have school, so now it's a brand new routine that we're having to look at, but that's what's going to create order in our house too, even if it might be a relaxed routine, more relaxed than what it was. I know we'll get back to that sure structure, but also right now it's having some structure, because I think that is key, when things are ever changing, and maybe there's nights that nobody's sleeping, but having set things that we know are going to set us up for some kind of structure in our day, and yeah, just keeping in mind that that flexibility is sometimes really needed, as you're changing through things.
I love so much of what you just said. I actually was like taking notes on different things and I can comment on 3 different sections. But for where you just ended, I think it's important. You said, right now for the first month of the third baby, you're in survival, but it's survival for a moment. And I think that's really where I want to hit home is, yes, embrace the chaos. If you have to go into survival mode, do it, but you cannot live in entirety in survival mode. 6 months from now, if you're still in survival mode, it means you haven't made a change. And if you let it go too long, it's even harder to get started. And I know Christy can relate to that because we've had conversations of, I'm not feeling it, right? There's so much going on. Like, I'm lucky I brushed my hair and brushed my teeth today. Like, how am I supposed to do one more thing? And that's because it's in true survival mode. And being able to say, you know what, it's time to flip the switch. So with that being said, and you're on the cusp of changing everything, literally, like you already had a huge change, and now there's another one because all 3 of them are home. And it's not just about being a parent. What I can say, especially as a person that lives in New England, right? Summer is the time to have a good time, right? People forget all the things they said that were important to them in January. I want to feel better. I want to be healthier. I want to make more money. I want to start a new business, right? All of a sudden it's like June 1st, people are like, I ain't got no priorities. I ain't got no goals. I just want to go to the beach, which I am absolutely here for that. But that can be a slippery slope. And then you find yourself the week after Labor Day going, I am so far behind where I said I wanted to be at this point of time in the year. So you going into that change, similar to how you asked me, what's going to be the first step you take to say, you know what, it's time to establish the routine?
Yeah, because you don't want to get to at the end of, like you said, the end of the summer, and now we've lost a whole section of the year. It's not just a couple weeks or a moment. It's like all of a sudden, oh, I lost a whole quarter of the year, all of a sudden. And then that can set you back on all the goals, like really set you back on the track you were on. So we don't want to lose progress. We want to move forward even in the midst of the chaos. So for instance, as we're going into this now starting June, I'm starting from, and this is just me going off the cuff, like right now, I'm going off of like the baby's feeding schedule, for instance, because that has to happen, and that is a necessity, and he's not going to wait. He's not going to wait for food. So if I can base and get on a set schedule with him, where he's on a very regular routine, the rest of us can kind of fall in line, because the other 2 have such a set routine with bedtime and naps and things like that I can keep that. The kids first. And then from there is where I can set my, okay, I want to start moving my body and working out. And now within maybe nap time, maybe it's 10 to 15 minutes, but it's a start for when, that timing is ready. And work time, okay, where can I fit in 15 minutes? And as I go along, okay, now I can fit in a second 15 minutes in the day. Now a third. Okay, now I'm working with, almost an hour, but in different chunks of the day. So that's where I'm planning it right now so that I can see. And, Justin is home right now, but he's going to be going back to work. Very shortly too. So that's going to be a big shift as well. Obviously, I'm not used to being home with 3 kids by myself. So that is going to shift as we go. But starting from, okay, where do I start? And so that's obviously a very specific scenario right now is I'm starting with their schedules, the kids, their bedtimes, and also if once we see where we're all waking up and all going to bed, maybe what I'm doing for myself and for my business is the bookends of the day, and then making sure I'm scheduling time for my husband and that we're getting that time, because we all know too with a newborn that can be totally left, and be the last thing you think about. But I want to make sure I'm doing that for us too. So these are the things that are all on my mind right now as we're getting into this new season, so that, right, Labor Day doesn't come and I'm like, where did summer go? I don't even know.
Exactly. And I think that's what's smart, right? Start with your non-negotiables. Guys, it's not a negotiable for the baby to eat, right? Like that has to be part of the day. And there's other things that have to be non-negotiables, and they're going to be different whether you're a parent or you're not. Or if you're, the busy time is your business. What are the non-negotiables, and start from there. They have to happen every day. And what I love is you went back to something we've talked about before, and it's habit stacking, right? We've talked about habit stacking. We've talked about atomic habits with James Clear. And it goes back to, don't create this routine where you're starting something new and it takes over an hour to do it. Because I'll tell you, you're going to do it for, you know what, if you're lucky, if you're really, really committed, you're going to do it for 30 days. Maybe, but then you're going to get exhausted. You're going to get really disconnected to what you're doing. And 45 days later, you've stopped what you started. Start by stacking them, right? Give it that 15 minutes, especially if you are a person, and it's not just postpartum moms, right? It's a lot of us. But if you haven't worked out in the last 6-9 months, how are you going to start with an hour every day and you expect to keep that up for the foreseeable future? Wouldn't it be a better bite size, instead of trying to eat a whale, to start with 15 minutes where you're walking instead of
100%. I 100% agree with that. And as a fitness professional, that's what I suggest to people just getting started. And even myself in COVID, I was in a moment of just doing 20-minute workouts. And I am telling you, I pushed myself more in those 20 minutes than I would have in a full hour. And my body totally changed over the course of a couple months because I was committed to the 20 minutes and not trying to fit in the hour. And that's what I'll eventually be doing as I'm ready here too, right now. And you can get a lot done. And that goes back to productivity too, is within that time frame. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because you can be really productive and you can get a great workout in 15 to 20 minutes, getting your heart rate up, working a couple of different, core muscle groups. But if you stay in that zone for that 20 minutes and don't let yourself get distracted, this is, coming back to another conversation we've had before too, is distractions, but letting yourself really be zoned in for that 20 minutes or 15 minutes, and set an alarm so when your time is up, but that you're not allowed to go look at your phone or, obviously if a child is screaming, that's a little different thing.
Yeah, but those things happen for sure. But I think that's so important because, all right, what's going to happen in 7 days? You know what? I said I was going to work out for an hour, so I did it. And now everything else got in the way because an hour takes up too much time. So I ended up working out one day out of 7 for an hour. Or what was more manageable was working out or working my business or whatever it is that you made a priority for 15 minutes for 7 days. It goes back to compound effect.
I was exactly just going to say compound effect.
And then, you take it one step from there. You figure out what are the priorities, then you schedule them, and you schedule them in bite-sized things. If this is the very beginning, if you've been doing this for a while and you've been successful at the 15 minutes every single day, well, I'm here to encourage you. It's time to up the ante. You said you had big, scary goals. well, it's time to go harder. And what I'll tell you, and it was something that you had said that triggered me to do it, but we say there's a lot of things that are important to us, and we say, like I mentioned, my top three: finances, family, and fitness. Absolutely. However, we can say what's important to us, but does your calendar reflect what you're saying? Because if
Your
you're saying,
calendar does not lie.
right, we have talked about that so many times with our mentor, with the people that we coach, even with our health clients, right? Your calendar does not lie, and it's going to tell you the truth about what is actually important to you, not what you're saying is important to you. There's two truths in there. There's what you think is important, and there's what there actually is. And it's fine if you are, doing that high view, that 1,000 feet in the air view down to your calendar, and it's not in alignment. That's why I tell you to do it, so you can adjust it to be in alignment. If you've said yes to 85 birthday parties in the month of June, and it gives you absolutely no family days, and you said that family is important to you, well, guess what? You're lying to yourself. You just are. And I'm sorry, because it's 85 different people's birthday in the month of June. I'm telling you this. And I can't go to everybody's birthday because, unfortunately, 85 birthdays are not on my priority list. If it is, go for the gold. Have a grand old time going to every single party. But I want to say it again, and I want to say it slower. What you're saying is important must be reflected on your calendar. Your calendar will absolutely tell you the truth. If business is your priority right now and you have not A, scheduled your daily work, or B, intentionally put different events or to go places on your calendar, it's actually not that important to you. It just isn't. And I think if you continue to lie to yourself, A, you're going to procrastinate like me because it's not perfect. And then what you're going to do, just like today, it's 90 degrees out as we're talking, you're going to go sip some fizz and chill in the pool for a good hour and a half, where you could have done one of the other things. But I want to caveat that with, it doesn't mean always say no to the fun shit.
I think that's important too, especially going into summer. I mean, for those of us going into summer, is you want to make room for that stuff too. And sometimes it's scheduling the fun stuff. And I mean, you want to be able to do it on a whim on a beautiful day. But sometimes it's keeping time in your schedule so that it's not so tight that you can have that flexibility for the fun stuff. For sure. I think that's part of, we talk about being happy, healthy, and skeptical. We're looking for happiness. So what are these things that are going to bring us happiness? Is having some flexibility in our day to be able to say yes to the things we want to do on a whim with our families, with our friends, whoever, for yourself.
I'm
So
like
having
cheering
that.
you on. I'm like, yes, yes. That's what
Yes.
I think both Chrissy and I have experienced this personally and professionally. When you create the successful routine, it releases the guilt of saying yes to the fun stuff, right? And just
Yes.
like she said, we talk about being happy. This is happy, healthy, and skeptical. And if you are sticking to your schedule so much and so anal retentively that it stresses you out and you don't have any fun or happiness in your life, it's not actually a successful routine. You're dreading the routine versus embracing the chaos, giving it a little bit of flexibility, but stick to the routine allows you to release the guilt. You know what? I did my 15 minutes of work for the last 7 days. Maybe today I get to pick something that's not on the calendar.
And that's a beautiful thing in itself too. That is living your life by design. That's how you get there. So I think, to sum up some of what we've talked about today, I think we got touched on a lot of really great points, but really keeping in mind your top 3 priorities for the year, looking at your calendar overall for the month. So then maybe do it monthly, or maybe it's looking at this whole season. If you're looking at summer, look at the whole summer and see where the major things, events, vacations, things like that, whatever, are scheduled. So know that, and then come back to a new routine. Let yourself have a new routine for this season of life. Or if you're like me, totally letting unexpected things come up with even though it's expected that we had a baby, you know what I mean? The unexpected moments happening, so that you can have some of that flexibility in your day. But knowing, like you said, to be able to schedule things into your calendar, those non-negotiable things, so that right, you're back to that, letting that flexibility come in, so that you're enjoying the days too, and not just like flying through summer too, where you're like, where did it go? I don't even remember what happened, because we don't want that either. You want to be able to enjoy the moments. So was there anything you wanted to add to that, Jen, for our wrap up?
No, I think you hit every single point, right? High view, plan the important things. Your calendar's going to tell you what's important, but also embrace the chaos. Like you said, you knew you were having a baby. That doesn't mean you know what's coming with it. And that's with anything in life, right? You might think you know what's coming, but that doesn't mean you know everything that's going to happen. And at the end of the day, don't be so regimented that you forget to choose happiness.
That's a beautiful way to end this. So thank you guys for joining us on another episode. And we love sharing this. Join in the conversation with us. You can find us on Instagram at Happy Healthy Skeptical. And, let's keep this conversation going, because I think we can all relate to the different change of things happening right now. So have a great one.